Why does a man pull away just when he feels the most? Why does he seem to shut down emotionally right as a connection grows deeper? Curious, and why does this happen most often with the women he truly loves? Carl Jung spent years studying the male psyche and uncovered something surprising. Men don't retreat because a woman is difficult or dramatic. They don't shy away from complexity or challenges. What they unconsciously fear is one specific quality in a woman, often the very strength she believes defines her. Most women assume that when he distances, it's because he's not ready, afraid of commitment or emotionally immature, but Jung saw a deeper truth. Thoughtful. A man who loves you deeply pulls away, not because he doesn't care, but because you awaken something in him he has spent his life suppressing. Size. This isn't about games or tactics. Every common piece of advice, like give him space, be mysterious, or let him chase you, completely misses the point. No one has explained what really happens in a man's subconscious when he encounters a woman like you. No one has shown why men often avoid the women who touch them at the deepest level. Emotional honesty, authenticity, and strength in a woman can unsettle him, not because he dislikes it, but because it forces him to confront parts of himself he has ignored or denied. What you see as vulnerability or intensity is actually your greatest psychological power, something he both desires and fears. Jung discovered that there is a particular trait in some women that men instinctively recoil from, not because it harms them, but because it challenges them to face themselves, and most men are simply not prepared for that confrontation. When you meet a woman who embodies this trait, his withdrawal is not a rejection of you, it is a reaction to the depth you bring into his life. The more genuine and whole you are, the more he is forced to face his own incompleteness. This is what Jung called the mirror of the unconscious. You reflect back everything he has failed to integrate within himself, and that reflection can be overwhelming. His distance is not because you are too much, it is because your presence highlights his lack of wholeness, making it unbearable. Understanding this doesn't give you a tool to control him, and it isn't about manipulation. It is about seeing the truth of what is happening in his mind when he shuts down emotionally. The painful reality is that he is not running from you. He is running from the man he would need to become to meet you fully. By awakening emotional depth in him, you trigger a psychological response that few women ever truly grasp. And while it may hurt to realize this, it is the key to understanding why men often distance themselves from the very women they love the most. It explains why love and withdrawal can exist in the same heart simultaneously. If you're ready to uncover why this happens, we're going to explore the trait that triggers male withdrawal and what Carl Jung revealed about the male mind, insights few people ever explain about deep male psychology. Before we continue, I want you to do something meaningful. If what I've shared resonates, if you recognize yourself as the woman who brings men face to face with their wholeness, type one word in the comments: reflection. Why this matters is simple. Jung believed that true change comes not just from insight, but through conscious action. By writing this word, you signal to your subconscious that you are ready to confront the truth and step fully into your power. I am ready to truly understand what is happening. Writing the word reflection is more than just an action. It's a conscious step toward integrating this awareness into your life. It's like making a quiet agreement with your own unconscious, a way of saying you are willing to face the truth within yourself. Jung called this active participation in the process of individuation. Most women consume information passively. They watch, listen, and find it interesting, but nothing changes. The women who transform, who shift their relationship patterns, are the ones who act intentionally. They don't just absorb knowledge, they step into it, signaling to themselves and the world, I am here not only to learn, but to grow. By writing reflection in the comments, you start to participate consciously, committing to a path of change and self-empowerment. 3 important things happen psychologically when you write reflection. First, you validate your understanding and honor your own experience, recognizing that what you feel and observe is real. Second, you signal to your unconscious that you are ready to embrace your inner power, to stop believing that you are too much or too intense, and to accept the depth you bring into relationships. Third, you connect with other women who are navigating the same patterns, who know what it's like to be desired and avoided at the same time. These are women who no longer repeat unconscious cycles. They are becoming creators of their own reality, aware of the forces shaping their relationships. Your engagement strengthens not only your own awareness, but also a shared community of women moving toward conscious growth. Writing reflection trains your mind to recognize patterns in your love life. You begin to notice when you awaken his inner conflict and when he retreats from his own emotional depth. This awareness is what separates women who keep repeating painful cycles from women who break them and form honest, deep connections with men who are capable of growth. At first, this realization can feel heavy because it removes the fantasy that you did something wrong. It shows you that your presence alone triggers change. When a man senses this shift, he feels exposed and seen in ways he has avoided. Your calm confidence and emotional clarity force him to notice the parts of himself he has ignored, often before he fully understands it, which can lead him to withdraw as a form of defense. Chasing him, explaining yourself, or shrinking your true self will never bring him closer. These actions only drain your energy and create confusion. Understanding what is really happening gives your power back. You stop personalizing his withdrawal and start seeing it for what it is, a response to growth, depth, and love that demands emotional maturity. Once you see this clearly, you no longer beg for connection. You choose alignment. You attract men who can stand in the light you carry naturally, without needing to run from it. Awareness replaces confusion with clarity and doubt with self-trust. This first conscious step, writing reflection, sets the foundation for everything that follows, allowing the insights ahead to settle deeply into your mind and shape your relationships in profound ways. If you wrote reflection, you are now ready to explore what comes next. Carl Jung discovered something most women don't know and most men barely understand. Every man carries a feminine element within himself, which he called the anima. This is not metaphorical. It is a real psychological structure containing all the emotions, sensitivity, desire for deep connection, and capacity to feel that society teaches men to suppress. From a young age, phrases like "boys don't cry" or "be strong, don't be weak" disconnect him from parts of who he truly is. These qualities don't disappear. They sink into the unconscious and form his anima. When a man encounters a woman who touches these parts, especially one who is genuine and whole, he projects this repressed inner world onto her, creating tension that he is not prepared to face. Most women only touch him lightly. They play socially acceptable roles and present a version of femininity that is predictable and safe. These surface-level connections feel controllable and easy for him, keeping everything on the outside. But when he meets a woman like you, who moves through life with emotional honesty and integration, everything changes. You are not performing femininity. You are living it from the inside out, conscious of your own wholeness and moving toward greater integration. Jung would say you are further along the path of individuation. Your presence awakens a profound tension within him because he is confronted with something he has long ignored, a mirror of his own incomplete self. When a man meets a woman who is whole, something powerful and often unsettling begins to stir inside him. His anima doesn't just stir, it comes fully alive in response to you. Suddenly, he sees everything he's denied in himself, the emotions he never allowed, the softness he buried, the longing for depth he learned to call weakness. You become a living mirror for the parts of his soul he has avoided his entire life. Fear rises in that moment, but many women misinterpret it. They assume he's afraid of commitment, emotionally unavailable, stuck in the past, or simply terrified of intimacy. The truth goes far deeper. He isn't running from you, he's running from himself. Your presence brings his inner world into the light, forcing him to confront feelings he has long suppressed. Jung described this as one of the most frightening yet transformative experiences a man can face. It shakes the foundation of the identity he has spent years constructing, exposing both strength and vulnerability in ways he never expected. For a man who equated strength with emotional suppression, this awakening feels like the ground giving way beneath him. The stronger his love for you, the more his anima stirs, and the clearer he sees his own inner emptiness. As that emptiness becomes undeniable, his fear intensifies, and distance becomes his instinctive escape. This is the pattern most women never see, and most advice completely misunderstands. Telling a woman to give him space often reinforces his fear. Teaching him avoidance keeps him safe. Being mysterious only works for shallow attractions, not for a man whose deepest feelings you have awakened. Acting calm or detached can actually undo the very connection you created, because it steps back from authenticity and returns to a mask, safe but empty of meaning. So the real question isn't what you did wrong. It's how to navigate a situation where your greatest strength, your emotional wholeness, is also what pushes him away. To understand this, it helps to recognize that men react differently depending on their relationship with their anima. The first type is fully trapped in his persona, unaware his anima exists. When it's awakened, he runs and never looks back, unready for growth. The second type senses his anima, but fears it, creating a cycle of closeness and withdrawal. He loves deeply, but retreats from what you awaken. The third type has already begun individuation, integrated his emotional world, and moves toward your depth rather than away from it. The key question becomes, which type of man are you facing? And more importantly, how do you handle the second type? The man who loves you yet runs, who feels deeply but shuts down emotionally. Jung's insight offers a powerful answer. You cannot become his therapist, and chasing him or giving up won't work. What you can do is become his mirror. There is a specific way to do this that transforms the dynamic entirely. Before reaching that point, you need to recognize the signs that confirm he is reacting to himself and not rejecting you. Jung outlined behaviors that appear when a man's anima is awakened by a woman. Recognizing these signals allows you to see that you are not the problem. You are the catalyst for a process he must face within himself. The first sign of this awakening is a cycle of idealization followed by withdrawal, a pattern that reflects the depth of his internal struggle rather than a lack of care or affection. A man whose anima has been awakened will often put you on a pedestal while simultaneously pulling away. He may tell you things like, "You're unlike anyone I've ever met," or "I've never felt this way before," or "You understand me better than anyone else." And then, sometimes the very next day or week, he becomes distant, cooler, harder to reach, emotionally unavailable. Most women panic, asking themselves what went wrong. But nothing is wrong. What's happening is that his projection has become too intense. Jung explained that when a man idealizes a woman, he projects all the repressed and unlived parts of his inner world onto her. She becomes more than a woman, she becomes a symbol of wholeness. And unconsciously, this makes him painfully aware of his own incompleteness. Pulling away is his way of lowering that intensity. It's not manipulation, it's a psychological defense. Another sign is emotional overload. He may say things like, "You awaken so much inside me," or "I don't understand what you do to me," or "When I'm with you, I feel things I can't control." Many women hear this as romance or danger, but what he's truly expressing is that you are activating his shadow. In Jungian terms, the shadow isn't evil, it's everything he's pushed away, believing it unacceptable. For many men, this includes vulnerability, tenderness, emotion, and the desire for real connection on a soul level. When he says he feels out of control, it's not superficial, it's his usual psychological defenses collapsing in your presence. This happens only with a woman who is emotionally real, grounded, and authentic. Responding by giving more reassurance or trying to calm him only reinforces his fear that he is weak and losing control, prompting distance as a defense. The third sign is the repeated pattern of closeness followed by retreat. At first, he moves closer, sharing parts of himself he usually hides. True intimacy begins to form, and then, right at the peak, he pulls back. Not completely. He doesn't disappear, but his presence becomes shallow. Messages are shorter, energy feels flat. He is there in form, but absent in depth. Jung would describe this as a retreat into his persona. He hides behind the socially acceptable version of himself because the real self you touched feels too threatening. In this phase, he is unconsciously testing whether you will accept only his surface self or can hold space for his wholeness. Many women fail this test without realizing it. They try to pull him back into depth, ask why he feels distant, or demand explanations. Psychologically, this only confirms his fear, signaling that your stability depends on his emotional presence, which feels like too much responsibility. The Jungian approach is different. You notice his retreat, respect it, but never shrink your own depth. You remain whole, emotionally authentic and grounded, without demanding he meet you there. That is the difference between being needy and being a mirror. Neediness says, "Come back to depth because I need you." Being a mirror says, "I remain in my depth. When you are ready, you know where to find me." Transformation happens here. A man whose anima is awakened cannot stay shallow for long. He may resist, pull away, or convince himself he doesn't need depth, but his psyche longs for integration. He returns, not because you chased him or manipulated him, but because your presence reflects a path toward wholeness he cannot ignore. Each return brings him closer to emotional integration, creating the process Jung described as relational individuation. But this only works if you do not lose yourself in the process. If you hide your truth to make him comfortable, reduce your depth, or take his struggle personally, you lose the very quality that supports his growth. Recognizing these signs gives you the clarity and emotional distance to see this as his inner journey, not your failure. The question then becomes, how long do you wait? How long do you remain the mirror before accepting that he may never be ready? Jung offered very clear guidance on when a woman should stay and when she must walk away, and understanding that balance is the final step in navigating this deep, transformative dynamic. Here's a truth few women hear. Not every man whose anima you awaken is ready to face the transformation it demands. The biggest trap is believing that if you are patient enough, if you wait long enough, he will eventually change. Jung was very clear. Individuation cannot be forced. It can only be chosen. You can hold the mirror, live your wholeness, and show him what integration looks like, but you cannot walk the path for him. Some men would rather remain fragmented than confront the fear that comes with true wholeness. Jung called this the hero refusing the call. These men move in endless cycles. They come close, pull away, return, then disappear again. They may love you, but loving you fully would require them to love themselves first, and they are simply not ready. So how can you tell the difference between a man who is truly growing and one who is circling his fears? Jung offered 3 clear signs. The first is movement, not stagnation. A man who is genuinely transforming moves forward, even slowly. He may stumble, take steps back, or need time, but each return shows progress. He opens up a little more, expresses vulnerability, and names his feelings instead of avoiding them. A man who is stuck repeats the same patterns endlessly, same fears, same excuses, same withdrawals. Progress is absent. Remember, you are not his therapist. Your responsibility is to stay authentic and observe whether he is doing the inner work himself. If years pass and nothing shifts, that is not growth. It is resistance. The second sign is self-reflection rather than projection. A man ready for transformation takes responsibility for his behavior. He may say, "I know I pull away when things get intense, and I am working on it. My fear comes from my past, not from you. I am running from myself, not from you." This man begins integrating his shadow and does not make you responsible for his emotions. A man who is not ready does the opposite. He tells you that you are too intense, too much, or overwhelming. He projects his inner conflict onto you instead of owning it. Projection is the opposite of individuation. A man who constantly projects is running from himself, and you cannot follow him there. The third sign is that he seeks his own answers. This is subtle, but crucial. A man truly transforming looks inward. He reflects, reads, talks honestly with trusted people, or seeks therapy. He takes responsibility for his inner life. You do not need to guide him or explain his feelings. He finds his own language for growth, and his actions show it. A man who is not ready expects you to carry his emotional weight, to interpret his behavior, and to lead him through his inner work. This is exhausting because real transformation cannot be outsourced.